Hi guys, it's been 18 months since I started on the carnivore diet, and today I'm going to talk about what I'm actually doing with my gut health and the results that I'm getting. So if you haven't been to my channel before, my name is Sue, and as I said, I've been on the carnivore diet for 18 months. My history is a whole lifetime of gut issues and decades of IBS diarrhea. I'm not going to go into all the details. If you want to have a look at those, I've got videos that I've done in the past, and you can go and check those out. Today is Saturday. It's supposed to be summer, and it's actually pretty cold and yucky outside. But I have the most amazing smell in my house right now because I'm cooking beef shin. It's been slow cooking for about 7, nearly 8 hours at this stage, and it looks and smells amazing. In a nutshell, when I started on carnivore, I was hoping that my IBS diarrhea was just going to go away, and it seemed a bit better to start with, and then it just got really, really bad, like worse than it had been before. But because I had other things that were resolving and healing and getting better, I kind of knew I was on the right track, but I just hadn't been able to work out why the diarrhea was not resolving. Around the end of last year and the beginning of this year, the diarrhea had kind of settled quite a bit. Like, it wasn't, sometimes it would come back, but it was generally quite a lot better. And I thought that I was kind of getting there with everything. And then I started having really obvious and fairly serious histamine issues. And the thing that really caught my attention basically was when I ended up completely covered in a rash from my shoulders down to my knees, and it took 2 months to go away. So if you want to have a look at my videos about that, they're here on my channel as well, because I did a couple of videos about that with some photographs and stuff of my skin. So when all that happened, I kind of realized that my gut definitely wasn't as good as I was hoping that it might be. And so I started diving into the whole subject around histamine. Realised that I'd probably had histamine issues most of my adult life as well, because there's all sorts of symptoms that people don't kind of realise are associated with histamine. And then from the histamine, I kind of started coming across information about SIBO. Now, I knew what SIBO was. I'd heard of it, or roughly knew what it was. I'd heard of it, but I never kind of figured that it applied to me because my problems were with my large intestine and not my small intestine. But it turns out that most people with IBS diarrhea have got SIBO, and that's why they have IBS diarrhea. So one of the major causes is food poisoning, and I don't know whether that's what would have started off with me. I suspect that it probably did, because I used to have lots and lots of problems with vomiting and diarrhea when I was younger, and I always just put it down to tummy bugs. Chances are there was food poisoning, and that's probably what started it off. So around the time that I started having problems with histamine issues, started looking into all of that, I decided to try the Lion diet, just red meat, salt and water, because I thought, well, maybe that might heal my gut up, you know. Just kind of grasping at straws here. Just carnivore harder, that'll do it. I'd already taken myself off eggs for about 3 or 4 months. I stopped eating those. I stopped eating dairy for 2 or 3 months, and none of that made any difference. So I thought, well, I'll try the Lion diet. Surely red meat, salt and water has to do it. And so I thought I'll do that for 30 days and see what happens. So I started on that, and I got really bad diarrhea. And I had diarrhea every day for 17 days, and then I quit because I thought, I cannot do this. It's just doing my head in, because when I get the diarrhea, my anxiety gets way worse. My stress levels go up. You know, I'm trying to run a business and deal with clients, and it's just gets really, really hard. It's a challenge, put it that way. So while I was on the Lion diet, I came across information about berberine. So berberine is an extract that they take from, there's about 4 different herbs they can get it from: barberry, Oregon grape, golden seal, and another one. And it's been used in Chinese medicine and Ayurvedic medicine for 3,500 to 4,000 years. So it's basically an antibiotic herb, and it works on the gut microbiome. Now there's tons of research on this stuff. I did a video a little while back. I'll try and remember to link to that below. Going through some of the studies. Now it helps with all sorts of metabolic issues, so weight loss, cholesterol, blood sugar, and the way that it works is the effect that it has on your microbiome. So I decided to start taking that while I was on the Lion diet, and when I started taking it, I just went straight onto a full dose, which was 999 milligrams. So it was 3 times 333 milligram capsules. So one of those 3 times a day. Now the first couple of days that I was on that, the noises and the grumbling that was going on in my belly were ballistic. I've never experienced anything like that before. And it was constant. It went all day and all night because I didn't sleep very well, and I kept waking up and my belly was just making all these wild noises. And even hubby said, you know, he's like, oh my God, it kept going all night. I was like, yeah, I know. So there was something going on in there that kind of sounded like a war, and it probably was. After about 48 hours, that settled down a bit, but it was still pretty grumbly. And so I stayed taking the berberine for 4 days while I was on the Lion diet. And then I stopped it because I wasn't sure whether the diarrhea was being caused by the berberine or whether it was being caused by my diet. So I went off the berberine and I stayed on the Lion diet for a few more days, and the diarrhea did not settle. So that was when I decided at day 17, I've had enough of this. So I went back to just eating my normal carnivore diet with some blueberries, as I have been, and things kind of settled down a bit. So I let it settle down for a few days, and then I started taking the berberine again. But what I did is I started on a lower dose. So I started on 1 capsule, then went up to 2, then went up to 3. Now at the same time, I started also taking some oregano oil twice a day, 2 drops with some fractionated coconut oil in a capsule, and I did that for 14 days. So oregano is also an antibiotic herb, and because by this time I had kind of really realized that SIBO was probably my problem. Now I haven't been tested for SIBO, and the testing is a breath test is the one that they usually use, and it's not very reliable, and it's hard to get or expensive to get because most GPs don't know much about SIBO. So to try and find a doctor that'll send you for a test is a bit of a mission, and the tests aren't necessarily accurate anyway. So I'm just going by symptoms, and by symptoms, it's looking to me like I probably had SIBO for most of my adult life, at least since I was a very young teenager. So I took the berberine for 4 weeks. I took the oregano oil for 14 days, and at the same time at the beginning of that. And then in amongst that, like as I was looking for information on SIBO, I came across Dr. William Davis. So Dr. William Davis is a cardiologist who realized that the microbiome were playing a part in cardiac disease and got interested in the microbiome, and that is now where his focus lies. And so he's doing a lot of research and a lot of playing around with different bacteria strains, making fermented yogurts and things out of those to see how much assistance that can be with curing SIBO, and he's getting some pretty good results. So his first book that he wrote, which I had heard of but I never read, was Wheat Belly. He's written a few books in between, and now he's written this book here called Super Gut. And it's a really good read for anyone who has gut issues or thinks they might have problems with dysbiosis or SIBO. It's worth reading, and I'll link to that book below, so you can check that out if you want to. So I started listening to him, and I decided to try his Super Gut yogurts that he talks about. And so I ordered the probiotics that he recommends that you start the yogurts with, 2 in particular. And I made my first batch with L. reuteri, which is a bacteria that he recommends, and L. gasseri, which is another bacteria that he recommends for SIBO. And the first batch that I made, I actually made in my Ninja Foodie. It didn't go particularly well. I used it on the dehydrate mode because these yogurts have got to be fermented for 36 hours to get the bacteria counts that you need. So basically what he says is that most commercial yogurts are only fermented for 4 to 6 hours, maybe 8 if you're very, very lucky. But most of them are about 4 hours. And so the bacteria counts in them are pretty minimal, which is why they don't have amazing effects on people. But what he's found is that when you're fermenting these strains that he's talking about, because the bacteria are doubling, so they're doubling, if you look at it on a graph, the amounts of bacteria, which is CFU, is the abbreviation. I can't remember what it stands for, but it's CFU. That's what you see on probiotic capsules. You see, 5 million CFU, something units. So you'll see that the count goes like this on a graph, but once it gets to hour 30, between hour 30 and hour 36, it goes up like this. And so you end up, he has sent his samples that he's been playing with away to be counted, and they come back at around 200 billion CFU per half cup, which is a pretty good dose of those probiotics. You won't find any capsules or pills with that many in them. So, so I made my first batch, as I said, in my Ninja Foodie, and it was kind of okay. The Ninja Foodie, I had to keep resetting it because it only does 12 hours at a time. The lowest temperature that I could get was was to put it on dehydrate. So in the meantime, I had actually ordered a yogurt maker that's kind of designed for this. So it has really variable temperatures, and you can set it for up to 36 hours. I'd ordered one of those and was waiting for it to come. Now, some people make these yogurts in their Instapots. So the newer models of the Instapots are more flexible with the times and the temperatures, and they can work quite well. And the other way that people do them is to use a sous vide. So if you can have the right temperature, because like the L. reuteri, its ideal temperature is body temperature, so between 36 and 38 degrees Celsius. And L. gasseri's a little bit higher, I think around 39, 40. And so if you're fermenting them together, you want to have it around the 38-ish. I actually ferment them at 37 degrees and it seems to work fine. But I might try putting it up a little bit after I've just finished reading his book, so I might try putting it up just a little bit higher. So I started eating these yogurts about 6 weeks ago, and my first couple of batches in my yogurt maker were absolute disasters. So as you can see, it came out, it all overflowed all over the container, and it was like this stringy plasticky stuff with whey, and it was the most bizarre looking thing and smelled kind of really cheesy and quite funky. But I had a couple of batches like that, and that's quite common apparently. But what I did was I strained off some of the whey, and I froze that in muffin trays in the freezer, and then the rest of the whey and the stuff, I just blended it up and we ate it anyway. We had it with kefir, because I'm making kefir again and eating that, and we ate it anyway. So it didn't taste too flash, but you're still getting the bacteria. But after that happened, the first couple of batches, I started a batch using some of the whey that I had in the freezer, and it works perfectly now, works really well. So I think I've mastered it, and it tastes good too. So I've been having that for 6 weeks. Now, I've also, what else am I doing? I've got a whole list of things here that I'm doing. So I've been eating the SIBO yogurt for 6 weeks. I've also been eating kefir, and I've started making sauerkraut again. So I'm eating fermented vegetables, kefir, and the SIBO yogurt. And the reason for adding the others is that these bacteria that live in us and that are in these fermented foods are all symbiotic and they work together. And so when you are eating the fermented foods, even though some of the bacteria in these fermented foods won't colonize and stay in your digestive tract, when you're eating other fermented foods, the bacteria in those are helping to create the right circumstances for other bacteria to thrive, and they help to balance everything out, because it's a little ecosystem that's in there that, if one lot of bacteria get too high, that's what causes problems. And so creating a place where they're in balance and in the right numbers is what's key. And so the more kind of variety of these things you can get in, apparently, the more things kind of balance out. So I'm eating kefir, I'm eating fermented vegetables, sauerkraut, and I actually bought some other fermented veg last week, which is really tasty. And so I'm eating those. Now, I also stumbled across a video by a young fellow who had SIBO for 6 years and was really miserable with it. He was having no joy with doctors and naturopaths. They're doing all the usual treatments with rifaximin and different things, and nothing was working. And then he came across Mark Pimentel, who's a GI specialist, I think, who's researching all this stuff as well. And Mark was talking about the migrating motor complex, or MMC. Now, this wasn't something that I'd heard anyone else talking about until I came across this young fella. And so he ended up taking a motility supplement, and that made all the difference to him and has basically cured his SIBO. So the supplements contain globe artichoke and ginger. And so I ordered some of that, and I'll link to that product below. While I was waiting on it coming, I was just making ginger capsules myself with some organic ground ginger and ginger essential oil, and I was taking those for probably, a few days to a week before the motility supplement came. And now I'm taking the motility supplement twice a day. You take it on an empty stomach, because the idea is that you want it to be able to help that the migrating motor complex. The migrating motor complex, I'll explain what that is. So that is the movement that the small intestine is making to push everything through. So it's, I know in the colon it's called peristalsis. I don't know whether that is the same thing that's in the small intestine, but it's basically that effect. So it's what's squeezing the food through. So your small intestine is 24 feet long, and so there's a whole, it's got to go a long way when stuff's going through there. Now, one of the things that can cause problems with the MMC is the food poisoning, because I listened to Mark Pimentel last night talking about that, and how basically if it is caused by food poisoning, it creates an autoimmune disease, basically, where your body is attacking something on the end of the nerve, on the end of the cells in the small intestine, where they speak to each other, that creates that MMC, that migrating motor complex. And so it buggers that up. It buggers up the communication between the cells that are making that happen, basically. So the snacking thing can be a real problem, because if you're not giving the small intestine a rest and allowing it to reorganize that migrating motor complex, then that can be a problem. That then allows bacteria to overgrow in the small intestine, because they're spending more time in the small intestine than they should be, basically, and so they start multiplying and causing a problem. So I'm also fasting, back to fasting as well, making sure that I do at least 16 to 18 hours fasting every day, so that my small intestine is getting that time to empty itself completely, and taking that motility supplement while I'm not eating, basically. So before I go to bed and when I first get up in the morning is when I take that to help with that MMC. I'm also taking milk thistle again for my liver, because this whole time while this has all been going on, since I've been on Carnivore, I've been really aware most of the time that my body isn't handling fat very well, and the evidence of that was in the toilet, you know, and so there was something going on there, and apparently these bacteria, if you've got SIBO, can get into the gallbladder as well and cause problems and stop the gallbladder from working properly. So I don't know whether it's something like that. I figure I've given my liver a really hard time for a lot of years, so I thought I'd just start taking some milk thistle again for a while. The globe artichoke and the motility supplement is good for liver as well, so it's not going to hurt. Now, I'm also drinking clove and green tea. So that's something that Dr. Davis talks about in his book, in his Super Gut book, is that clove, he talks about how our small intestine is supposed to have this mucus barrier in there. So, and it's supposed to be nice and thick, and that helps to protect the small intestine. There are different things that can cause the mucus barrier to be degraded, and if it's not there, then that's when you end up with leaky gut and food particles, protein particles and stuff going through the wall of the small intestine into the bloodstream where they shouldn't be. So clove, the eugenol in clove helps your body to create that mucus layer in your small intestine, and the catechins in green tea help to make that mucus layer thicker and stronger. So what he recommends is a tea made with clove and green tea. The recipe's in his book, and you also add prebiotic fibre to that. So he recommends FOS, that's what he's got in the recipe. I don't have any FOS, so I've been using acacia fibre. It dissolves quite nicely in there, and so I've just been having that because I had acacia fibre in the pantry, so I've been using that, and it seems to be fine. And the tea, when the first day I had it, because it's quite strong, because you're boiling the cloves, a tablespoon of cloves for 10 minutes, and you can reuse those for a few days. But it tasted really strong, and I kind of wasn't quite sure. And I've never been a huge fan of green tea. But after the second day, I find myself actually really looking forward to it and feeling like it's really doing something good for my body. So that's cool. Now, the other thing that I'm doing is I'm using HCl betaine again to help my body to digest my food. I'm not sure whether my stomach acid is up where it should be, and so I thought I'd take that just in case. And so the results that I've had so far in the 6 weeks that I've been having the SIBO yogurt and doing all of this, because I started the other stuff before the SIBO yogurt, the results that I've been getting is that I've gone from fairly constant diarrhea again to gradually, my bowel motions were just kind of gradually getting firmer and firmer each day. And it took a few, probably, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks before that started happening. Like, I still had diarrhea, and then it just started to get better and better and better. Now I've had the last 3 weeks of firm bowel motions, no diarrhea, and I'm very happy with that. I'm still going to the toilet pretty much every day, and it's easy. I've had the occasional day where I don't, like when we were moving house. I think I had 3 days where I didn't go, but I didn't feel like I was constipated or anything. And when I did go, it was easy, it was fine, but it was firm. And I'm also got other stuff that I'm really happy with. My anxiety seems to be down quite a bit, which is great. My little OCD tendencies that I tend to have when things aren't good are down, which is really good. My happiness is up. My skin is good. I've stopped getting pimples and stuff. I've got one left here that's kind of dragging on, but I was getting a lot of pimples, and they seem to be really settling down. The colour of my skin and that's been quite good. I haven't been getting the red patchiness so much, and my sleep quality's pretty good. I still a little bit up and down. Sometimes I still have nights where things aren't quite right with the sleep, but most of the time it's pretty good and the quality's good, and I'm waking up feeling pretty rested. And the other thing is that my scales are showing that my visceral fat has gone down. So that's one of the effects of the algacery, and which is pretty cool. So on my scales, it says that it has from 0 or 1 to 12 is healthy visceral fat, and then above 12 it becomes a problem. So mine was up around 16 initially, and then it's been sitting on 14 for ages, and then the other day it was 12, and now it's kind of veering between 12 and 13. So it's heading down there, and I was very happy to see the 12 because that puts me, according to the scales, in the healthy range, but less is better with visceral fat. So yeah, so that's where I'm at with what I'm doing with my gut health, and I'll keep you updated. But I really feel this time like I'm on the right track, because before, even when I thought things were settling, it was still really up and down. You know, I'd still have days where I had diarrhea, and then I'd have days where I felt like I was quite constipated. So it was kind of all over the place, where this is kind of just gradually got better and better and better, and now it's pretty good. It's pretty good. So I'm hoping it's going to stay there. And the great thing is that the yogurts, you know, the SIBO yogurt, and these yogurts, I mean, they're all carnivore friendly foods, and I think that they are something that could really make a difference to the others who, like me, are having problems with their gut even months or, you know, over a year into the carnivore diet. So yeah, so I'll stick with the SIBO yogurt probably for another couple of weeks, but I'm also starting to make some L-Reuteri yogurt by itself, and I'm going to make some L-Gaceri yogurt by itself, and I might have a look at some of the other bacteria that he talks about in his book as well, because looking through those bacteria, I kind of thought I probably need all of them. So, but if you make them with the individual strains, then you're going to have higher bacteria counts of that strain in the yogurt. So yeah, I'll experiment with different ones, and I'll let you know how I get on. So that's where I'm at. If you've got any comments or questions, just fire away below, and I'll get to them ASAP. If you like this video and this information, make sure to subscribe and like the video, and I thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you again another day. Bye for now.